Good evening and welcome to tonight's debate. We have 8 candidates vying for the empty seat for the City Council of Campbell River, the seat that was vacated by Michele Babchuk, who was elected to the provincial government back in the fall. My name is Mary Ruth Snyder. I'm the Executive Director for the Campbell River and District Chamber of Commerce, and I am tonight's moderator. We have 8 candidates: Ken Blackburn, Douglas Chapman, Keely Donaldson, Devin Garrett, Stephen Jewell, Wes Rode, Laurel Sliskovich, and Sean Smythe. We are going to begin with a 90-second opening statement from each candidate, starting with Ken Blackburn. Ken?
Okay, well, thank you, Mary Ruth. And I want to thank the Tidemark and the Chamber for hosting us tonight. My name's Ken Blackburn. I've spent many years working internationally, teaching leadership skills to youth. And when you look at the list of key skills, they include things like listening skills, creative problem solving, teamwork ability, conflict management, motivational abilities, valuing consultation and collaboration, inclusiveness, integrity, decision-making, working with ambiguity, etc., and on. All of these skills are essential in working through the complexities that are inherent within a community. But to understand these complexities, we must be able to work with what I call the connective tissues of a community. We commonly say the ability to connect the dots. We must see the relationships between our social challenges and strengths with our economic, environmental, and cultural challenges and strengths. All are intermeshed. All of our sectors of our community, whether public, private, or not-for-profit, must be seen as equal partners in positive development. We have to be mindful that we have great successes in this community right alongside our challenges. I am bringing these skills forward to seek a seat on City Council. Tonight we'll have an opportunity to discuss some of the details and issues. We probably won't get into great depth of them, but I want everyone to know I'm available to talk anytime that you need. I want to wish everyone well tonight, and I'm looking forward to hearing the opinions of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken. I will say to the audience watching from home, either on the Campbell River Mirror Facebook page or the Tidemark Theatre Facebook page, that all of the candidates, as you can see, are joining us virtually on a Zoom meeting. I am the only one here at the theatre other than our Tidemark team, and everybody is socially distanced. We live in very interesting times. Now, the next candidate, Douglas Chapman, please, your introductory statement.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. Working in local government field for the last 35 years in the top administrative and financial positions has given me a solid understanding of the complexities that local governments face in BC. I've been involved in community visioning, strategic planning, development policies, just to name a few. Decisions that council makes vary widely in complexity. Councils are required to deal with such issues as financial planning, changes to the official community plan, zoning bylaws, development permits, development variance permits, recreation, public works, water collection, water purification and distribution, just to name a few. With that said, whatever the decisions that council make has to be made in the viewpoint of what's in the best interest of the whole community. We should be asking ourselves as a community, where are we going? To that end, what are we currently doing about climate change, our local economy, the lack of the housing and lack of housing for low cost and traditional costing? What are we doing for the homeless? How are we going to replace our capital assets over the next 30 to 50 years? I believe I would be a successful councillor if elected to the position due to my past experiences in local government. My name is Doug Chapman and I'm running for the vacant council seat in Campbell River.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Our next candidate tonight with an opening statement is Keely Donaldson. Keely?
Good evening. And yes, my name is Keely Donaldson, also known as Kiki. I would like to take a moment to respectfully acknowledge that we are situated on the unceded traditional territory of the Lakota peoples. I've resided in Campbell River for 20 years, investing myself personally and professionally in the welfare, growth, and care of Campbell River and its citizens. And I've always strived to create positive change and choices for Campbell Riverites. I'm a businesswoman, mother of 2 teenagers, and a property owner here in our community. Working in public relations, Indigenous relations, and community engagement, I'm connected with numerous community organizations and businesses, and will continue to volunteer extensively in our community. I'm excited for the future of Campbell River, and I look forward to representing our community fairly. I bring accountability, transparency, and integrity to my community involvement. I welcome open door policy for community and discussions regarding the governance of Campbell River and decisions being made for and by this community. Serving our community as a city councillor, I will be focused on economic recovery, arts, culture, recreation expansions, and social issues such as affordable housing, public safety, and urban density. Community, collaboration, and consultation are critical now.
Thank you, Keely. Devin Garrett.
Hello, my name is Devin Garrett. I'm running for the open city councillor position in Campbell River. As a 4th generation Campbell Riverite, my family laid down roots here many generations ago. And as such, I've grown up hearing about the stories as it was developed from pretty much nothing into the salmon capital of the world. And even growing up here myself, I've seen how much it's changed, and I feel like I have a fairly strong finger on the pulse of the town as a small business owner, local employer, financial advisor, and a Rotarian and a Scout leader. I thoroughly involve myself and throw myself into the community at every opportunity I get. And I really would like to try and help Campbell River solve some of its larger problems coming up and some of its systemic problems that we maybe have not dealt with as well as possible in the past. So I'm Devin Garrett, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Devin. Mr. Stephen Jewell.
Good evening, everyone. As you can tell from my accent, I'm from the UK and my wife is from East Africa. We've moved to Vancouver Island about 18 years ago, and we've been involved in our community. I was a volunteer emergency program coordinator in Saywood for 5 years, and I volunteer still for the Coos and Climb that's run every year on Midsummer's Day, and that raises money for the community. Since moving to Campbell River 6 years ago, my wife and I volunteer for the Sea Cadets, helping maintain the hall. Both my children are Sea Cadets and have been in the cadets for 5 or 6 years now. And my son is in the Campbell River Legion Colour Party, and I'm very proud to see him marching on Remembrance Day. As you can see, I'm new to this, and this may be a little bit out of my depth as well. But we've been immigrants, and we've now Canadian citizens for 1.5 years. So for most of the time we're here, we've been not able to vote or stand for council. So now I'm happy to be able to take part in Canadian democracy and stand up and be counted. So I look forward to your vote. But I can see there's lots of very interesting candidates. So maybe this is a practice run for the next election. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen Jewell. Now, with his introductory statement, Mr. Wes Road.
Thank you, Mary Ruth. I want to thank you and the Chamber and, of course, Tidemark for hosting this event. Good evening. My name is Wes Rood, and I consider it a privilege to be considered in the upcoming by-election for City Council. Of course, none of this would be possible without first thanking past councillor Michele Babchuk for her time and contribution to City Council over the years, and as well to congratulate her on her successful MLA campaign in the recent provincial election. My wife and I moved to Campbell River about 26 years ago, and in 1998, I started my IT business, Cogent Technical and Design, which, as a byproduct, has opened numerous doors in this great community, both commercially and residential. During my time in Campbell River, I have been involved in the community, primarily as the Campbell River Storm Governor for the past 9 years. That in itself has been almost a full-time job, as well as volunteering and helping with the Salvation Army for some 23 years. If I'm successful in this election, that privilege of running will quickly become an honor to serve you, the electors, to be your voice, to put your needs for this city ahead of any personal interests that I may have, because the seat on council, after all, belongs to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now with her opening statement, Laurel Sliskovich.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laurel Sliskovic. My pronouns are she and her. I'm an enthusiastic, educated, experienced, and ethical human with values rooted in a genuine love and appreciation for learning and playing. My free spirit, fierce determination, warm heart, and insatiably curious mind will lead both my professional and personal growth. I love Campbell River, and I chose to move here 8 years ago. This community is full of heart and has welcomed me as a volunteer, an entrepreneur, and as an explorer. With an openness to connect with local community organizations, I've been a volunteer board member with the Young Professionals of Campbell River, serving as the president for 2 years, the volunteer coordinator for the Campbell River Salmon Foundation annual fundraiser for 3 years, and I'm currently the president of that board. I've been a board member with Discovery Passage Sea Life Society, which is the aquarium. I'm an Adopt-A-Trail volunteer with Greenways Land Trust, and I have led 2 community reading circles that have focused on community and economic development. As an entrepreneur, I research, teach, facilitate, promote, and share knowledge about sustainability in leisure, tourism, and recreation here on Vancouver Island and the Sunshine Coast. Currently, I work as a program advisor with the Vancouver Island Coastal Tourism Resiliency Team. And as an educator, I have taught entrepreneurship, organizational leadership, volunteer management, event planning, and marketing at North Island College, VIU, and across the water in Powell River. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. And finally, Mr. Sean Smythe, with your introductory statement, please.
Evening, everyone. I'm Sean Smythe. I've lived in Campbell River for 14 years. I showed up in Campbell River because it had a strong logging industry, growing aquaculture, and tourism industry, which is all industries that support my industry, aviation. I recognized right away that I could buy a house here, have a good standard of living, raise my kids here. And I did exactly that. I've worked with all the industries in town. I got 2 kids that have no idea how lucky they are to be growing up in Campbell River. My parents recently retired and moved to Campbell River because it's a great place to live, and they recognized it right away. I served 8 years at the airport authority, and in those 8 years, everything we did up at the airport, we had to do through the city. So I learned how purchase and acquisitions work. I learned how the city works, the ins and outs. I developed a relationship with city staff and city council. I know all their strengths, I respect them all. I know where things can be worked on, and I like to help where they're working. My time, I'm on council, a lot of things I'd like to see. I'd like to see an increase in housing inventory that would relieve the vacancy problems that we have here in town and the tax base. I'd like to streamline the permitting process, make it easier for small businesses to work and big businesses to change in their community. And I'd like to see open communication between the businesses and the industries that support this in the community. I'm looking forward to tonight. I think it's going to be fun.
Thank you so much, Sean. That concludes the first part of tonight. The second part, we are going to begin with questions. The first question is with regards to climate change. Climate change is our generation's biggest issue that we are facing as a planet. However, a lot of the work can be done at the local municipal level. Albert Einstein once said, "The world as we have created it is a process for our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." So beginning with Mr. Douglas Chapman, what would your approach be locally to tackle climate change? You have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
We all need to we need to change our way of thinking about transportation. For instance, protected bike lanes. I think there are a vast majority of people in Campbell River, young and old, who would like to be able to bike wherever they're going. To do that safely, I think we need some protected bike lanes at designated roadways in Campbell River. Admittedly, we can't have them everywhere, but as we're redeveloping roads, as we're developing new areas, that should be mandated for these roads. We need more electric vehicles charging stations. They need to be a lot of them around the community to provide for recharging facilities. The city itself can be purchasing more electric vehicles. Supervisors who are on the road don't need full-size pickups. They could use the smaller electric vehicles that are now available and can be licensed. The other issue I'd like to raise is we should be utilizing the provisions of the Motor Vehicle Act that will allow electric-type golf carts to be licensed on municipal roads. And I think we need to be planning for also the sea levels will be increasing over the next decade. And are we ready? And we need to plan for that.
Thank you, Douglas Chapman. Keely Donaldson.
On fighting the old, but on building the new. That was Socrates. Campbell River was born as a resource-based community. Forestry, mining, and fishing are the economic backbone for generations here. My household has been supported by logging for 20 plus years and has experienced the up and downs of this resource-based sector. As these industries adapt to the environmental solutions of today, climate change hinges on the way we as a people consume energy. Making changes in policy, technology, and behaviors that encourage less waste and smarter use of our resources will proactively lessen the impacts on our environment. Some examples of new green industries include wind and solar power and biofuels from organic wastes. They're all viable and accessible for Campbell River business expansions. Industry adaptation and Indigenous teachings are already strengthening a new dawn for our resource sectors. Planting trees, restoring seagrasses, and boosting the use of agricultural cover crops are all part of ongoing collective strategies, creating new industry standards and practices. BC Ministry of Forests noted that a new record was set with 300 million trees planted in 2020 and will be adapted again in 2021. There are numerous solutions being adapted, not only by industry, but as us as a society, doing our part to build a better tomorrow.
Thank you, Keely. Devin Garrett, your answer to climate change. And please wait until your mic is unmuted.
Thank you. I looked at the climate change question from a different direction. As a small resource-based community, it would be pretty hard for us to put the brakes on things such as logging and whatnot without majorly impeding our economy. However, what we can do is promote sustainable practices, change fleets to electric vehicles. I would like to see something along the lines of a fast charging station, maybe up by the highway, that would promote longer trips up and down the island on electric vehicles, and including the eventual conversion to electric trucks for shipping up and down the island, as trucking does produce more on average pollution than the average driver. I would also like to see Campbell River prepare itself a little bit more for the eventualities of being a coastal town right on the edge of a fault line. So more earthquake, flood, and fire preparedness as our forests get drier and our tide levels get higher. So I think the municipality should definitely have a very long view of the eventualities that will affect its citizens when it comes to those changes. I'd also like to see things like a green box program that other communities have that Campbell River does not. Composting, a new woodlot, and things along those lines. And I'm always open to hearing other people's solutions if anybody would like to reach out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Devin. Stephen Jewell, how are we going to address the challenge of climate change?
Hi, Mary Ruth. I was thinking about cycling as well. I've cycled over 25 different countries around the world. I've traveled to 80 different countries, and I love cycling. And I was very disappointed when I bought an electric scooter here that you take it downtown and you've got the car charging stations, but nowhere to charge an electric bicycle. You see old age pensioners on their electric scooters. My mum and dad have used them, and if they run out of power, you've got to run down there and bring them home. And I'd like to see electric chargers go in as well. I've got some stuff written down. Oh, I think I've just lost it, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, we'll call it quits for now then.
Okay.
I'll try and get myself organised a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Stephen Jewell. Now over to Wes Road.
Thank you, Mary Ruth. I like that quote by Albert Einstein. It speaks of us in the collective. It says we and our, but it really comes down to you and me, to us. It's an individual choice. And climate change is one of those hot button topics that incorporates those on the extreme opposites of the spectrum and most of us caught in the middle. And irrespective of where you stand on the issue, I've always felt that there is something that we can all do. After all, what's the harm in trying to reduce our carbon footprint or reducing greenhouse gases? What's the harm in recycling more vigorously and reducing the amount of trash in our very limited landfills? What's the harm in doing our part to protect this fragile planet that we call home? Now, while the options available, they might not be practical or reasonable for everyone, we can always consider alternative modes of transportation, bicycles, electric scooters, electric or hybrid vehicles if possible, maybe even reducing the number of vehicles that you own. From the city perspective, we could, and I think we should, be working with the Comac Strathcona Waste Management to enhance curbside pickup for recyclables. The list goes on, including the Community Climate Adaptation Plan survey you can find on the Campbell River City website. You can have your voice. Let's hear your opinions. There's something that we can all do to help protect the environment and preserve the natural beauty of our Campbell River.
Thank you, Wes. Laurel Sliskovich.
Such great answers from everyone. It's just so heartwarming to hear the great suggestions coming out of the people on this panel. And I think the community, like a number of you have said, the community has a lot of answers. And I think as leaders in the community, it's important to demonstrate the behaviors that we're asking other people to take on. So I too am an avid cyclist, and I really do promote active transportation for work and for play, and think that as we develop more connected networks for people to use alternative mode of transportation to get around the city, that's really important. The city is certainly growing, and we need to look at how people move around our community. I also agree with the statement around waste management, that organics and simply reducing the amount of waste that we individually and as a community create. Things like shopping closer to home make a big difference, supporting local where you can, so that we're not only affecting our own personal choices, but also the infrastructure that supports all of the goods that we're getting into our community. That all is part of climate change. The UN Sustainable Development Goals do provide a really great framework that municipalities and individuals can read up on and learn about and educate themselves and make choices, like I said, for our own personal actions as well as the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. And finally, on this question, Ken Blackburn, the climate change challenge, how would you tackle it locally?
Well, thank you, Mary Ruth. Yeah, I mean, there can't be any doubt that climate change has to be first and foremost of what we have to address. The pandemic and COVID sidelined us for a while, but we need to get back on talking about climate change. And the Einstein quote is excellent. One of the big challenges of adjusting people's habits is their way of thinking. And a lot of thinking has been shaped by systems and educations that haven't been able to keep up with population and technologies. So how do we change thinking? We have to work from something and from a blueprint. And the city has an excellent climate action plan that has a current survey online. And I encourage everybody to fill out the survey because first and foremost, we need to know where people are at. But that plan also outlines 33 actions and they're built into categories. And the categories are our built environment, our natural environment, community health and well-being, our economy, and enabling actions. They're very great categories, and we need to go through them each at a time. But I am personally very much about enabling actions because it is actions that we need. That plan also talks about mitigation and adaptation. And mitigation is stopping the things that we're doing that are polluting. And that's where we can talk about bike lanes and walking routes and adaptable transit. But it also talks about adaptation. And that's preparing for what's coming. So in short, we need to get active, we need to get engaged, because I feel the more that we ski, we bike, walk, scuba dive, the more we're engaged with our environment, the more we really truly understand what's at risk.
Thank you, Ken. The next question has to do with our local and municipal. Oh, Sean, sorry. How did I miss Sean? Yes, Sean Smythe, go ahead. Sorry about that.
No
I totally missed you on my. Please go ahead.
I'm very proud at what our community has done so far with climate change, actually, because we signed on the Climate Action Charter back in 2012. City staff has done a great job of taking advantage of all sorts of programs that are provincially funded to do climate studies within our community. The Rise in Sea Tide Levels study was one of those, and they've been actioning that. So that's great. I've been involved in numerous green infrastructure projects over the years. I was the guy that flew the Shell executives up to Nob Hill to do all the wind power turbines up there. I was up in the American Arctic when they decided to take all those communities off diesel generators and make them all carbon neutral. And the interesting thing about climate change is that it's a global issue that the costs are borne locally. So it's a tough sell to the public. And because of that, I've seen projects be disasters and I've seen projects be huge success. We have to do cost benefit analysis of the things that we do. We have to do feasibility studies before we start getting into major infrastructure projects on climate change. I am a huge supporter of bike lanes. I'm a huge supporter of the little things, of the low-hanging fruit. I think absolutely we should do it. And you can vote for anybody here. And as a community, we're going to move forward and do things like that. But when we're talking about big projects, which some are going to be coming down the line in our community, we have to be looking at them scrutiny and do them responsibly.
Thank you, Sean. Now that concludes our climate change question. The next question is about local economy. The candidates were asked to consider the fact that we are going to be losing 1,500 or more good-paying jobs with the federal decision to close the Discovery Island fish farms in a very short time frame. The proposed time frame currently is 18 months. That is going to mean a loss of all of those jobs in a very short time frame, not to mention millions in local and provincial revenue. So, what's your plan? Starting with Keely Donaldson.
Thank you. This is a huge impact to Campbell River's economy, progressing from an 18-month logging strike to COVID shutdowns, and now aquaculture sits in the swing. Economic recovery isn't going to be easy, folks, if this is full scale. The Canadian aquaculture industry head offices such as Maui and Stearmac will either significantly decrease or move out of our community. It'll take huge adjustments to even come close to replacing these jobs. This shutdown will pull over $83 million out of the North Island economy. Some remember the impacts of the mill shutdown. This could be the equivalent. I'm confident that ocean economy is viable for this area. Tidal energy and land-based aquaculture are examples of what new industrious Campbell River could look like. Strong opposition was made to our federal government, but the political reality appears to already be in motion. If we lose aquaculture, the federal government and our province need to step up and provide a serious stimulus package for recovery. 2008's Black Friday put Canada's automotive industry on the brink of collapse. The auto unions and companies lobbied hard for $9 billion in economic aid, and it was released, and these plants were saved. Will the federal government bail out the West like they bailed out the East? That is the question. This would assist in retooling the aquaculture industry. City Council has done the right thing by lobbying to overturn this federal decision, but should be also lobbying for economic aid to save local jobs.
Thank you, Keely. Devin Garrett, what is your plan?
The unfortunate loss of aquaculture to our community is a large hit that I don't think we will be able to recover from anytime soon. However, I do think that we should continue to try to support aquaculture, at least on a municipal level, so we don't lose as many of those jobs. And in the meantime, we should do things like promote the fact that Vancouver Island has been given the status of a special economic zone, which means we can import for the purpose of manufacturing things much cheaper and avoid tariffs. And that is something that I think Campbell River and the island have lost a long time ago, is our manufacturing sector and a lot of other more stable sectors that would help keep a solid baseline level of taxation for our community, which would take the edge off of our local taxpayers, who are the select community who more or less pay for about half of the municipality on their own. I think that in addition to that, we should try and promote and incentivize the development of a lot of low-cost subdivisions, which would also help with a construction boom like it did about 15 years ago, which was very good for the town then as well. And that would also go a long way to supporting our housing situation. So I think that we can cover a lot of ground with just a few large projects. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Devin. Stephen Jewell, how will you tackle this problem?
But lost the picture here. I've got like some report come up. Hello?
We can see you fine, Stephen.
Okay. Yeah, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth, the fish farms being moved out. I was here when the pulp mill shut down, and that was all doom and gloom then. I've heard on the news that they're talking about opening fish farms on land. That's maybe an idea, and that would bring jobs. I should imagine it would be an easier way of controlling the pests, the sea lice on the salmon, and you wouldn't need to use toxic chemicals, so maybe the salmon would be more organic. Maybe there's going to be an increase in the wild salmon, which would bring more tourists and fishermen. Be better for the commercial fishermen. There'd be more jobs there. Also, the animals, the wildlife, the bears, the orcas, the countless other animals that depend on wild salmon, which is going to bring tourist dollars. Wildlife pays, and I think we should support it and protect it as well. It's difficult. It's going to be a hard job to get over this, I think. But I think we can do it in Campbell River. We've got through the pulp mill. We've got through a lot of other problems, and Campbell Riverites seem to be strong and resilient people. Thank you.
All right.
I can't see a time rule.
Yeah, that's okay. You're very close there. Stephen, thank you so much for your answer. And now over to Wes Road.
Thank you, Mary Ruth. I appreciate that aquaculture in this region and other regions is a very contentious subject, but it's a very real issue for those on both sides with a real impact on Campbell River. But that impact is not limited to aquaculture. Campbell River has seen its share of industry reductions and closures over the years. Obviously, we lost the mill, forestry's been hit, some mining. Thankfully, NISTAR is back up to, I believe, some 300 employees. That's great. But when decisions are made either federally, provincially, or locally, we need to keep in mind that that decision or that answer over another has an impact. One answer over another doesn't equal a solution. It's only a decision, and all decisions have ramifications one way or another. And so I believe that we as a community should be looking at ways to promote economic development, to offset the losses, offer incentives perhaps for businesses to relocate to Campbell River or to set up a new business. Of course, when we lose an industry, it increases the tax burden on all of us. So we should encourage business development to replace lost jobs, stimulate the economy, and get back on the road to recovery. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wes. Laurel, what is your answer to the closure of the fish farms and the impact it's going to have locally and provincially?
Thank you for the question. And like all of us, I appreciate that this is a very difficult situation that all of us are in. And I think we need to remember the strengths that we have as a community, and that the people who are employed in the finfish industry on our coast are a diverse group of people, and there are a lot of innovations happening within that particular industry. And a lot of the people that are employed have very transferable skills. We have an opportunity to create a sustainable aquaculture industry, which includes shellfish as well as seaweed, which is growing exponentially as a global market. And we are in a position, as I said, to transfer some of those employees who will be out of work and the subsequent businesses that have been supported through that industry as well. So I do really think it's important to differentiate between aquaculture and the closure of fish farms, because they are very different subjects. And I also, like I said, I think that the strength lies in converting some of the energy and time and talent and innovation that has gone into that specific industry into uplifting our community into clean technologies and alternative forms of energy and food production, which we definitely need here in Campbell River and across the country and internationally.
Thank you, Laurel. And now, Sean Smythe, what would your approach be?
Well, I want to talk about, it's not just 1,500 jobs we're losing. We're losing $132.65 million out of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a significant impact. And this isn't just, these are primary first dollar industries. So when an industry like fish farms comes in and spends their money in Campbell River, that dollar transfers more throughout the community than other industries. They have more velocity, right? Because they use so many different contract and smaller companies to service them. This is something that we should really be looking at, what the Campbell River Business Recovery Task Force did as a report. We should meet with all of our community leaders regularly. We should talk to them, have a real communication between City Hall and the industries that keep our city running. We want to attract more industry and more businesses to our community, which is an easy thing to do. It's a beautiful place to live, and they're all trying to get out of the big city where things are more expensive. We don't have enough industrial lots. As of this morning, I checked, there are 3 empty industrial lots in Campbell River. So we got a big problem. And there's nowhere for them to live. We got a 7.7 vacancy rate. So we got to open up our city. We got to give room for these businesses to come in, and we got to really connect with the industries that are supporting us now moving forward.
Thank you, Sean Smythe. Mr. Ken Blackburn, how would you approach this challenge?
Thank you, Mary Ruth. I think absolutely first and foremost, my concern is for the people whose jobs have been affected. I mean, these are our families, they're our friends, and they're our neighbors. We need to make sure that the resources are in place that can assist people with making transitions. This has been a federal jurisdiction, and I want to know what the federal plan is based on the impacts for a community like Campbell River. This has been a serious decision, and I want to know what is in place to assist us with transitioning. And I want to build capacity in our local resources, especially our job employment resources, to be able to handle people that are affected by fish farms. We need to keep the feet to the fire of the federal government and know what their stimulus plans are. But I also want to reach out to our First Nations neighbors to get an understanding of where their visions are and what they are planning. Many of the employees of fish farms are, of course, First Nations, and I'd like to know how the local bands are supportive of the transitions. We probably have a lot to learn from them, and we need to work together with them. It's a complex question, and if our priority is going to be wild fish stocks, then we need to understand all of the pressures that are on these stocks, not just from fish farms, but also from changing ocean conditions, habitat protection, stream management, logging practices, etc. And we need to be reaching out to the tourism, sports fishing industries to be able to determine where new employment can be created in order to assist with transitioning.
Thank you so much, Ken. And lastly, Douglas, what would your approach be to compensating for the loss of 1,500 jobs plus and the millions of dollars?
Thank you, Mary Ruth. I'll answer Ken's question. The problem is the federal government doesn't have a bloody plan, and that's the whole problem. The first thing I would, thank you, Keely. The first thing I'd be doing is getting together with the province and lobbying the federal government to create a $500 million economic development trust through Western economic diversification. Now, they wouldn't have to be operated by them, but the City of Campbell River could do it if we needed. It would be a method of providing zero interest rate loans for businesses who have been affected by fish farm closures in order to help them create land-based fish farms. And I agree. There's been a lot of talk about going to land-based fishing, fish farms, and that would help us a lot in our area. And I agree that the spin-off that the fish farms has is better than most spin-off in most industries. I agree with Sean. The industrial lot capacity in the city is deplorable. We need to review our OCP and zoning to make sure we can provide the sites that are needed to make this work. And I'll just end it there because I could prattle on here for another 20 minutes.
Thank you so much, Douglas. Now that concludes our question on the economy. The next question is housing. Now, we do have to say that the current mayor and council have put in some extraordinary measures over the last few years and have made a lot of ground in building apartments and putting in supportive housing. No question. However, we still sit with one of the lowest vacancy rates in all of British Columbia at 0.7%. And what is available tends to be very expensive. How would you address this issue? Devin?
There is definitely a distinct lack of affordable housing in town. And I'm not necessarily talking just about apartments. There's almost no room in the housing market at large for young families or retirees to downsize into affordable housing. They can't capitalize on their equity, or they can't even get into the market to begin to accrue their own value either. So I do think that extreme methods do need to be taken. to develop large quantities of affordable housing for today's market. We are already at capacity housing wise. So to attract new businesses at any scale means that we need to be able to provide houses for those people to even move here in the first place. When I first got into the job market, Campbell River was going through a housing boom, and it was beneficial for the entire community. There was a lot more work. That's how we keep our median wage, our median salary plus jobs. And it'll be good to keep all those hands busy, especially while we go through this economic recovery that's coming just down the road in 18 months. So I really do think those two things are desperately intertwined, and we do need to take action now to make sure that we can get people into those homes and make the market a much more reasonable and friendly place for everybody.
Thank you, Devin. Stephen Jewell, how would you approach the lack of housing affordability and availability?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, it's a difficult situation as house prices are going up here. If you own a house, then you're laughing. You can see your investment improving, but there is a lot of houses being built on the Island Highway. I noticed condos going up. We've got land over the other side of Jubilee that could be developed. There's a possibility of co-op housing, housing solutions, multi-purpose housing. If we can get the, no, I'm sorry, I've lost it again. I've gone blank. Sorry. I'll say that'll be all for now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Stephen. Yeah. And now, Wes Rowett. As you know, there is a lack of affordable housing and an availability of housing. So, Wes, how would you go about at a local level to try to encourage more building and more affordable building?
Thank you, Mary Ruth. You're right. Housing in Campbell River has really boomed in the last 3 years, both single dwelling homes, apartments, condos. That's true. And while some of the housing prices might seem out of reach for some, it does provide opportunities for others. An example, you might be living in a basement suite, and for a similar rent, you can move into something that is your quote unquote own space that provides a real sense of satisfaction and pride and accomplishment for some people. For those that can't afford or to buy or rent the higher priced units, Campbell River does offer alternatives such as Linda's Place for low to moderate income, and of course the new Quexon Place for people who are experiencing or on the verge of experiencing homelessness. These are great starts, but there's always room for improvement, and the needs for housing is on the rise. It's also a testament to how great a place Campbell River is. People are coming here and having a hard time finding a place to live. That's a problem, but it's also should be positive for us because they are attracted to our community. Hopefully council, and if I'm successful, will be part of that, to continue to encourage developers to pursue these opportunities rather than just the high-end homes, with the end goal of providing housing so that all residents have a safe place to call home within each individual financial needs.
Thank you so much, Wes. And now to Laurel Sliskovic.
Hi. I'm a renter, so I feel this issue, I guess, in a different way. I recognize that homeowners or people who are purchasing homes have different needs than I do as a renter. I'm a young professional and I would like to not own a home in this community at this time. And I want that to be a safe and viable option. And I know that other people that I know that own homes and are looking for mortgage helpers could really appreciate having secondary suites as a citywide policy and not just on new builds in communities that are approved for it, but the idea that certain homes and certain neighborhoods are protected from having secondary suites it's really quite sad. There is definitely a mentality that renters are less than, and I think that fundamentally needs to change at a senior leadership level, and recognizing that not every renter has a couple of cars, no different than a house with teenagers, has need for parking and a big driveway. And yeah, I just simply think that there's a lot of room within our community already for secondary suites, and that would absolutely address some of the housing shortage and help as a mortgage helper for homeowners as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Laurel. Now, Sean Smythe, what would your approach be at the local level to increase our housing availability?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, I think you're correct that our city council has done a great job with building affordable housing projects within the community. The key to understand this, though, is that affordable housing projects and the cost of housing are two separate issues. Now, the part of the market that's most under stress in Campbell River is a single residential lot. And I got a chart here. I love numbers. They tell a story in themselves. And it charts all the single residential charts going back to 1960 to today in Campbell River. And from 1980 to 2010, Campbell River averaged 1,500 new homes every 10 years. When we hit 2010 to 2020, we dropped down to 1,000. So we've pulled our production of single residential houses down by a third right when demand is going up. This is where the problem is. If you squeeze out the supply, the demand goes up, right? We're surrounded on three sides by forest land where the private forest owners want the city to expand. They want to build homes for our community. We have to allow the city's footprint to expand, let the private sector build more homes. That's the only thing, that's the only way out of this. All the density downtown, great. Basement suites everywhere. Let's do that, but we have to increase the inventory. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sean. Ken Blackburn, what would your approach be?
Well, this is, again, a very complex problem. And, there's a lot of market forces that are beyond just what we can do locally, but we need to build off some strengths and some momentums. I mean, we do see a lot of building going on now, and we need to keep that momentum in place. But we have to establish priorities within bylaws and policies. I think that when we establish those priorities, obviously affordability is a key one. And I think when we're approving developments, housing has to be mixed housing, inclusive of various levels of income. And of course, that can also lead the way to secondary suites, tiny homes, and a variety of houses. Regional densities are very important. I don't agree with Sean that the only solution is just cutting down more forests and more houses. We need to infill into our communities, whether it's Campbellton, Willow Point, and downtown. But we have to recognize something very important is that there can be social drags on encouragement of development downtown. And that's where we need to address the social challenges of our areas to make sure that development has the support that it needs to want to invest. And of course, just as a last comment, is our waterfront. I absolutely think we need to protect our waterfront as a community and be very cautious of any development on our waterfront.
Thank you, Ken. And now, Mr. Douglas Chapman, what would your approach be should you be successful in being elected to the seat on City Council to address the housing issue?
Well, my figures that I've come up with are similar to Sean's, and it's just coincidental, I think, hopefully, that the decrease in the housing stock decreased just as the OCP had changed, and I think the development cost charge had changed. So we need to examine what is holding back the developers. What is chasing them out of Campbell River? Is it our rules and regulations? Is it our development permits or development variance permits? What is it? What is holding us up? And we're not going to find out until we talk to them. So, I think there's a lot of discussion that has to take place. I'm of the belief if you build a road and you put a water and sewer, you put in a bigger water and sewer and allow developers to build 10, 12-story buildings. Higher density, serviced by the relatively same infrastructure, is a cheaper way to build and to house people. And that housing should be mixed of low income and regular housing. We have a lot of working poor who can't afford even rent. And so we need to be proactive. We need to look at our OCP. We need to look at our zoning, make sure we are not inhibiting growth in our own community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Douglas. And now, final thoughts on this question with Keely Donaldson.
Thank you, Mary Ruth. Housing. There's an immediate need for raised urban density levels in pocket neighborhoods such as our downtown core. Campbell River still has hundreds of acres of developable land. As an example, our downtown area is in desperate need of residential occupants to bring back the vibrant, community-driven sector it once was. Economics changed, and so did the landscape of this community. New residential development will create ownership of the downtown core, building a better tomorrow for our community. It'll transition the current state of an unstable environment into a flourishing hub of economics and popularity. This is part of a workable solution for housing in Campbell River. There are several undeveloped lots in the Cedar Street vicinity and an empty bus depot. This area is ready for higher density residential development. Around the corner is the old Ford dealership, which is a terrific location for multi-CR 3, 4, or 5. This redevelopment would up our tax base significantly and create affordable residential solutions, building a better tomorrow for Campbell River and needed change for our downtown core. The official community plan and city bylaws need to be updated, including tiny homes, carriage, and laneway homes, adding density to included existing properties. Although higher density is one solution, there's still a large demand for R1 single homes. Reviewing neighborhoods for the right development solutions is key. Campbell River has large projects on the horizon, and with the current rate of development, it's critical to be planning for the best city we can have for tomorrow.
Thank you, Keely. And now here comes a little bit of a curveball. Earlier this year, we lost a Canadian icon in Alex Trebek. And in honor of Alex Trebek, who always had a special guest come on to ask a particular question, I, at this point, would like to invite our special guest to join us in the Zoom meeting. Former councillor and newly elected MLA for the North Island, Michele Babchuk. Welcome, Michele. Michele, you have a question for the candidates.
I do, and thank you, Mary Ruth, and thank you very much to the Chamber of Commerce for inviting me tonight. Congratulations to all of the candidates up there, and I wish you all the best of luck going forward. My question today is, can you tell me your top 2 priorities and how you plan to move them forward in the next 18 months before the next municipal election cycle?
Thank you so much, Michele. Thank you so much, Michele. We really appreciate you coming on to ask your question. And now to answer, we begin with Mr. Stephen Jewell. Stephen, you have a minute and a half. Your top 2 priorities.
Yeah, I was afraid. Am I unmuted? I was afraid you're going to pick on me. I seem to be blanking out tonight. Well, housing, of course, and I've just gone completely blank. I seem to be right out of my depth here. I wish I had 2 votes because there's so many fantastic candidates, and I love Keely, but I think I'm out of my depth here, and I'm only going to vote for myself. And if I had 2 votes, I'd vote for Keely. So I'll pass on that. Thanks.
All right.
And thank you for letting me take part. I've really enjoyed this, and thanks for putting up with me.
No problem. Thank you so much, Stephen. And West Road, what would your 2 priorities be?
Thank you. Thanks, Michele, for the question. I think if I stick to what I've been saying since I entered into this race was, I'm more concerned about what the people of this community see as a priority. I have a lot of things in my face every day, and the things that are important to me might not be important to you. This is your seat. This is your voice. If I have to answer the question, I think obviously the one that creeps up the most is people that are experiencing homelessness. It's pervasive. It's a problem that we've had in society from day one. It's not going away. We have a moral obligation to do something as a society, and whatever we can do to alleviate, to help, to assist, I think it's incumbent upon us to do what we can. But again, I have to come back to, I want to reserve what I think is important and listen to what you think is important. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Wes. Laurel?
Hi, thanks for the question, Michelle. MLA Michelle. My top two priorities, my background is leisure, and so I look at the role of leisure in how we develop our communities sustainably so that people get to enjoy where they live. So my focus will be on encouraging recreational and social development within the amenities that exist in the community, and recognizing that over 18 months, I'm not sure how much new I'll be able to bring up in council, but I certainly want to encourage that that conversation and take more of a leadership role in ensuring that our recreation and culture department is able to deliver programs for all ages and all income levels in our community, and taking a greater role in active transportation networks goes along with that, as that is definitely a recreational amenity that we enjoy. And then the other part is to actively engage with the community. I think we've all been really suffering from not being able to connect with one another face to face, and finding ways to continue to encourage people to come out and stay healthy socially will be really important. It always has been important. It'll continue to be important moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. And now over to Sean Smythe. What would your top two priorities be?
Hello, Michelle. It's President Surprise. So top two priorities in 18 months. Well, first thing I would do is talk about what I just talked about before, which is the housing inventory. We increase the housing inventory, we relieve our tax burden, we stop ever increasing taxes. And the second thing I like to do is, no matter who you vote for, we're going to have to rewrite the OCP, the Official Community Plan. It's 5 years overdue already. And right now it's just under 400 pages long. I've talked to numerous people that have tried to work with the OCP, and they've worked with the OCP in other communities. They call the Campbell River OCP convoluted, contradictory. It's one guy even called it a ridiculous document. Now, 400 pages long, that's 100 pages longer than Prince George, which is a community twice the size of Campbell River. So it needs to be simplified. It needs to be streamlined. We also need to look at our permit process. Our building permits are currently not even aligned with provincial standards. So it's actually harder for contractors to come in and put in building permits because they're not even streamlined. I want to make the building permits way simpler and streamline everything and have things move faster through City Hall. And if we accomplish that in 18 months, I'd be pretty happy.
Thank you, Sean. Now, Ken Blackburn, what would your two top priorities be between now and the next municipal election in 22 months?
Well, thanks, Mary Ruth. Great to see you, Michelle, and congratulations. I hope you're fitting in well down in Victoria. But for me, the top two, number one is downtown. The challenges that are being faced downtown really, absolutely address what I started out talking about with interconnectivity. The aspects of trauma, of marginalization, of addiction, of mental health and physical health and its relationship to the social service agencies and its relationship to business development. This has to be addressed because I know from speaking with downtown business owners that this is what's holding development back. We need to address this, and we need to do it collectively and have a broad discussion about all of the factors that are contributing to what that challenge is. And then secondly, we need time to see the climate action plan. This is a document that is brand new. The survey is out now. We need to hear the priorities of the community, and we need to start addressing those 33 action steps and monitor our progress over 18 months to see how well it's working. And the same with downtown, in the sense that we need to give time for the supported housing development on Dogwood, the Quantum House, the Clesa warming house downtown, the community kitchen. All of these are new initiatives that we need to monitor and see how effective they are and where their gaps are so that we can attend to them. And I think 18 months would be a good time to be able to do an evaluation.
Thank you, Ken. And Douglas Chapman, your 2 top priorities between now and the next election.
My 2 top priorities. Oh, hi, Michelle, by the way. Nice to see. Hope you're enjoying it down there. The 2 top priorities would be the fish farm issue and housing. First, the fish farm issues. I would be, as I said before, I'd be lobbying the federal government for a $500 million economic development trust that would be administered by the Western Economic Diversification. That would be the first thing. Get that rolling. That'll take some time. The next would be housing. As Sean said, our OCP is outdated. Cleaning up our downtown can be dealt with through OCP and zoning. And down there, we should be encouraging redevelopment of areas. Keely has mentioned a few of them. If we combine the residential areas in the commercial areas, studies have proven in other communities, that's how you have a viable, livable downtown area. Commercial down below, residential above, and it could be apartments, it could be condominiums, but we need to get that mix. We need to get the people moving in there. We also need to look at our zoning, make sure we're not, along with the OCP and zoning, we need to make sure we're not inhibiting development. For example, Cumberland has a development there that's going to increase their population by almost 2,000. So that's almost, it's over almost 1,500 homes. What's holding us back?
Thank you so much, Douglas. And now, Keely Donaldson, what are your ideas? What are you going to try to get done in the next 22 months if you're the successful candidate?
Thank you, Mary Ruth, and thank you, Honorable MLA Babchuk. Really, it's not a long period of time, folks. The 2 top priorities for me at this time are public safety and our economy. Public safety does include the downtown core. People don't want to be down there, and the businesses are having complicated issues. It goes into affordable housing, it goes into our civic interests and our social society. Now is the time for change. We know that the OCP is under review. Now is the time to make the changes for the future generations and legacy of Campbell River. It means a rehash of the downtown core. It isn't the absolute solution to the affordable housing issues that we're having, but it is one way to take over 500 units and give us some urban density in a core that desperately needs some relocation and ownership. As for economy, I echo back to Doug, and I echo again what I said earlier. The federal government needs to stand up. Honorable MP has the opportunity and has been running back and forth between Ottawa and here. And at this time, MP Blaney has yet to show us what we have to look forward to. What is it going to look like? Are we going to get a stimulus package for our economy? Not only that, we're seeing forestry cutbacks and we're seeing other cutbacks in resource-based industry. How are we going to tackle that? We need an action plan and we need it now. It's time to create collaboration and consultation for this community. It's time to step up and use your voices, Campbell River. Thank you.
Thank you, Keely. All right. Lastly, Devin, what do you have to say for your top 2 priorities between now and 22 months?
Thank you for the question. My top 2 priorities would be housing and crime and cleanup of the downtown core. A few years ago, we were promised an increased budget and 2 permanent RCMP officers, a permanent presence in the downtown area. And what we got instead was an office with some cameras on it, and no change or no decrease in incidents downtown. Until we placed sirens in front of our office, I was on the daily cleaning up human waste and use needles from in front of our office before our clients would come in. Not monthly, not weekly, daily. So that is something that needs to be immediately addressed. And I think that is something that's reasonable within the first 18 months. Dealing with the economy is a long-term thing. The OCP definitely needs to be reviewed, but it will be completed in those first 18 months. I don't think that's up to a single brand new counselor. Local safety, definitely number 1, housing number 2. That's something I don't think I could explain it any better than Sean did or approach it as well as Doug did. We need to build up, we need to build out, we need multi-classed, higher unit capacity, we need density, we need more homes, more subdivisions, but we need to do it responsibly and without taxing our current infrastructure as well, because it needs to be economical for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Devin. At this point, I would like to say a huge thank you to our MLA, Michele Babchuk, former city council here in Campbell River. Thank you for being our surprise guest and for your question. Now, we are moving into the third part of our debate. In this part, actually the second part of our debate is when, Michele, sorry, you're still on. Did you want to say something, Michele? Is she gone? Okay. Okay. The second part of our debate is where each candidate gets to ask a question of any other candidate. And we are going to begin with Wes Road. You get to ask the first question. Wes, you have 30 seconds for the question, and whoever you ask has 2 minutes to answer.
Thank you, Mary Ruth. Surprise, surprise. I think rather than focus on one candidate and ask a question that might be perceived as fair or unfair, I would rather just like to recognize the diversity of this fantastic panel and candidates that are running and wish them all the best of luck. And with that, I will yield my time.
All right. Thank you so much, Wes. Laurel?
Hi. As one of 2 women running for council, my question is for Keely. And yeah, simply, how much do you think that gender equality matters on city council? And is that part of your motivation to run? Oh, yeah, just curious. Just want to have a conversation about it.
Keely?
Absolutely. It isn't for me personally about gender equality running for council. Running for council right now is about leadership and about change. I do think it's very important that we have proper representation. We are living in 2021, and we have the opportunity of seeing some incredible women leadership that have come at a national and international level. What a great era to be living in right now, and an opportunity for us to continue on that path. As for you and I, we know that the changes that need to be made here in this economy and in our socioeconomic state is incredibly important. We know that what it takes to run the family house, what it takes to get our kids to and from the arena, to school, to all of these other places, and the other economic pieces that fall into place behind families and behind individuals that are in a challenged place of being in Campbell River right now. It's an opportune time for us to be able to stand up and be able to show gender equality in Campbell River. It's been a long-standing issue here when we have seen less candidates stand up as females and more candidates stand up as males. I'm excited for change in Campbell River. I'm excited to potentially be a counselor for our community. And I think we offer a different representation and a different point of view. It's time, and it's time to replace the seat of Madam MLA Babchuk with another female.
Thank you so much, Keely. And thank you for the question, Laurel. The next question is asked by Mr. Sean Smythe.
Thank you. Ken, I'm going to ask you a quick question. So you work with the Arts Council and the Campbell River Museum. And of course, as a counselor, you can recluse yourself from any topics when there's talked about. But I was just wondering, how are you going to manage that with conflict of interest? Like if you're managing, A, B, and C is the Arts Council, how do you manage that budget-wise without looking with conflict of interest?
He's not unmuted. Can you unmute Ken Blackburn, please? And 2 minutes on the clock,
Okay.
please.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I am unmuted now. Yeah, cheers, Sean. Yeah, thanks for that. Well, conflict of interest is a kind of a complex situation. I mean, people that are on council are all, well, maybe not everyone. Some people may be retired, but for the working person, whether they're in private business or they're working in social service agencies or working in health, we'll always have certainly priorities that they bring and expertise that they bring because they're working within those fields. If it comes, and I think that that's actually really valuable. I have made no hesitation to tell friends and colleagues that one of the reasons I'm running is because I want greater heritage, arts, and culture voice at City Council because it has been lacking, and there is no capacity within the city to deal with arts, heritage, and culture. And it has been an ongoing issue that I have been up in front of City Council for many years. So I think it's important to have voices from any sector and from any industries to be on council to bring that expertise. When it comes down to particular budget voting on something that affects your job, you have to recuse yourself. I mean, you can offer insight into an education into council discussions and for the rest of council so that they have a greater understanding of what the impacts of those decisions may be. But you're absolutely right. You don't want people voting that are going to benefit themselves. So you have to make it very clear where the conflict is, declare it, offer your expertise and insight. But when it comes to a particular vote, if it's deemed a conflict by your peers and by the rest of council, then you have to recuse yourself.
All right. Thank you, Sean, for the question, and Ken for your answer. And the next question actually is Ken Blackburn. You get to ask the next question.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Okay, thank you. I actually want to just ask Devin Garrett a question. And just because I noticed in your introduction, you said that you're a Rotarian and that you're also with Boy Scouts. And I started out tonight talking about leadership and some of the qualities of leadership and what you want to see in a leader. When you're working with Boy Scouts or youth groups, do you agree with that list, or what do you prioritize for young people growing up in terms of what would be desirable leadership qualities?
Thank you for the question, Ken. Devin? Devin needs to be unmuted.
Here we go.
There you go, Devin.
Thanks for the question, Ken. When we're working with the younger kids, we usually try and build up their determination, their problem-solving skills, and their ability to self-initiate and eventually lead. It's actually a youth-led style program now. So what we try and do is build up their leadership skills and their confidence, and then try to largely let them take over the program as much as possible with adult guidance, obviously. So it's quite a different program than when I grew up, where it was typically adult-led and planned. So it's actually quite progressive now in that capacity. And I think that the kids will be better adjusted by the end of the program, which is really nice to see. And as for Rotary, I've been the type of people that join Rotary are quite exemplary, I believe. They really show the best out of the community. They're always willing to give back and put a huge amount of time and their own personal time on the table, and in a lot of cases, their business's time and money, donating as much as possible back to the community. So they're both fantastic programs. Well, one's a program and the other one is a foundation. And I'm really lucky to be in positions of leadership in both of them, as I'm on the board of directors for Rotary, as well as being a scout leader. So thank you very much for your question, Ken.
Thanks so much for the question, Ken. And Devin, thank you so much for your answer. The next question goes to Douglas Chapman. Douglas, what is your question and who is it for?
I have a question for Sean Smith. Sean, you spent, was it 8 years on the airport authority? I know it was supposed to be a full-fledged authority when we received that ICE-T grant for the runway extension. It doesn't appear to me that the airport is running as independently as what I had anticipated that would happen. What would you do to change the airport so it's more operating more like a business instead of a municipal department?
Thanks, Doug. That is a great question. And 2 minutes is not enough for me to geek out on the airport. Trust me. So you're correct. When the runway extension was first put in place, part of the grant process was to have an authority so the airport could run independently from the city. The city never gave full authority to the airport authority. They never got the checkbook. We were still kind of acting as a wishy-washy commission. And it must have been about 5-6 years into my term that they changed us from an airport authority down to an advisory commission. And my analogy of this is they took us out of the driver's seat and stuck us in the back seat, put a blindfold on us and told us which way to go. And no matter whatever, and then the city could just drive whatever direction they wanted to. And we were just kind of not knowing what's going on and just making recommendations. Now, an airport as a structure is never supposed to be 100% self-sufficient. It contributes to the community as a whole, right? So is it going to be 100% self-sufficient? I don't know. It could possibly. The key is if we could free it from the municipality, the box of working within a municipal government and run it like a business, we could be running it way more efficiently than it is now. And we can negotiate with different businesses. I have personally had phone calls from businesses that have tried to move from the Lower Mainland, move their entire business to the Campbell River Airport, employees, everything. And they've walked away after 6 months to a year saying, we can't deal with your downtown. So there's a couple of different things we could do, but you're absolutely correct. Freeing it from the city, allowing it to run as a separate business would make all the change to the world to that airport. And it's a huge asset to the city. I mean, the potential up there is massive.
Thank you so much, Sean, for your answer, and to Douglas for the question. The next question, Keely Donaldson, what is your question and who are you going to ask?
Thank you so much. My question is directed at Ken Blackburn. And Ken, you sound very passionate about the downtown. So what is your solution for positive change in the downtown core?
I'm unmuted. Okay, yeah. As I think I said with Michelle, the solution is broad-based. We need to be bringing all of the voices together to collectively look at the challenges from the myriad of perspectives. There are social service agencies working with mental health. They're working with addictions. They're working with trauma counseling. They're working with youth problems, with exploitation. And then there's development problems. I think Sean just alluded to that. The development is being dragged and being hindered because of some of the challenges. We also need to be talking about the difference between houselessness and homelessness. It's a very key distinction to be able to know what direction we want the conversation to go. Building houses is one thing, but homelessness is a different thing. We need to give time for some of the, as I mentioned before, like the warming center and the community kitchen and the supportive housing that's up on Dogwood. These are all so new that we need to have conversations that can look at how they're evaluated and whether they're being effective or not. We need to get the BIAs together, all of the businesses. I know many of them personally, and I actually before this, well, we call it a debate. We're not really debating, but before this gathering, went and talked with them to find out what they're identifying as what the challenges are. And I can tell you across the board is that they needed to have all the voices come together and start to pull together and understand the root complexities of why it has gotten to the point that it has. So it's not an easy fix, Keely. It's going to take time. But the most important thing is to be bringing all the voices together, including the underrepresented and the street engaged people as well, to get their perspective. So it's going to take all of us to come together and talk.
Thank you so much, Ken, for your answer, and to Keely for the question. The next question, Devin, what is your question and who do you ask it of?
My question is actually for Sean Smythe. I liked his answer about streamlining City Hall and its permitting process so much that I didn't want to repeat what he said earlier, but I would like to know if he has ever seen anywhere like anything like a template in another community that has worked so that Campbell River wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel to try such a process.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question, Devin. And it is a very good question because you can't ask for change without knowing where you're going. So there's a couple different models we can use. And one of the things that I've been talking to is I've been talking to a lot of economic developers, talking to a lot of different developers in town. Now, one of the greatest cities to live in Canada for 10 years in a row was St. Albert in Alberta. And one of the reasons why they did that is because they had such a strong economic development department, and they had a great permitting process where if a business came to the town, they could actually meet up with the economic developer, and the economic developer was one step down from the city manager, and they could bring them around to all the different divisions within the city and be like, what can we do? How can we get this process moving faster? And the other thing too is we have to recognize that 3 of the largest rental apartment builders are based in Campbell River. Like, I would love to sit down with these industry owners and leaders and be like, hey, you build towns the size of Campbell River all over Canada. What is it that makes you want to invest in these small towns? What do you see that works? What do you see that don't work? What official community plans have you seen that work well? What official communities have you not? I mean, there's a huge wealth of knowledge there that we could tap that we haven't yet. So there's all sorts of things we could do. You're right. I'm going to leave the last 20 seconds to say, Keely, I'm a man, and I know how to drop my kids off at school every morning.
Okay. Devin, thank you so much for the question. And Sean, thank you for the answer. The last question, Stephen Jewell, you get to ask it. Now, what is your question and who would you like to ask it of?
I think I'm clearly out of my depth here. There's such fantastic candidates. I'm going to recuse my time and let's move on. Having a great time though, and thank you very much for putting up with me.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen. Now, we have been receiving some questions through Facebook. If you have any question, if you're watching and you have a question for the candidates, you can enter it into Facebook, and those questions are being fed to me by Mike Davies from the Campbell River Mirror and Heidi Cuff from the Tidemark Theatre. So the first question we have is, what metrics would you use to evaluate or measure the performance of the work that happens at City Hall? You have 45 seconds. Actually, no. Laura, what clock do you have? Okay, so 1:30. You have 1:30. Sorry. It would be Laurel is the first person to answer that question. Laurel?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, of course. What metrics would you use to evaluate or measure the performance of the work at City Hall? So if the mayor and council come up with an initiative and they give the instruction to staff to undertake it, and then like 10 months later, however it unfolds, how are you going to measure that what you're asking to be done gets done? And how are you going to measure that mayor and council actually are doing what you're being asked to do by the general population?
I don't know the answer to this question because I assume that within municipal government there is such a metric in place, and I think that that's one of the things that I'm going to bring to the table is learning what's already happening. And
okay,
yeah, I really would just assume that process is in place, and I would look to that metric and use it in the best way possible. I think there's a lot of learning to happen from other communities, and I wouldn't try to reinvent anything if it's not already happening within Campbell River's City Hall. Then I would look to other municipal governments for best practices and look to bring those sorts of processes into place in Campbell River and simply learn from the people who are doing it best if it's not already us.
Okay, thank you, Laurel. The next question goes to Sean. With our ever-expanding tax base, our taxes keep going up. What would you do to ensure that they don't?
Thank you very much for the question. Yeah, big problem. Our taxes just keep on going up exponentially every single year. And this is not an easy thing to unwind because the way the city's set up is they project their budgets 10 years into advance, right? So they've factored in these tax increases every single year into their budgets. There's a couple of things that I would like to address within City Hall. There's a few inefficiencies that we saw happening up at the airport. And because we had to do everything through the city, most city projects, almost all that we saw, they were not done by city staff. They were done by consultants. So if you say I had to buy a new fire truck, they wouldn't just say, hey, you city staffer, go look at fire trucks, report back on Monday, come out. No, they would hire a consultant. The consultants get paid about $230 an hour, and they go back and forth with the city staff, building up this quote for whatever the project is. And every time they go back and forth, the scope of the project goes up. Like, this is how you end up with $200,000 washer. Because you hire these consultants to go back and forth and build up the project all the way up. By the time it makes it to council, it's already cost the taxpayer tens of thousands of dollars per project. So this is one of the ways of many that we can shore up the inefficiencies within our community and try to keep those taxes from going up year after year. It's not sustainable. We have to address it. We have to address it soon.
Thank you, Sean. The next question goes to Ken Blackburn. We have a question that came through on Facebook. What would your plans be to work with the rest of City Council to formulate a widely accepted plan regarding an up-to-date recreation facility for our community? And do you value the importance it would bring to the community youth?
Wow. The value of a recreation facility, I mean, shouldn't even be questioned in a community. They are invaluable for what they offer to be encouraging youth to be engaged. You know, I was interested in Devin's answer and some of what he said there with working with youth. Notably, I think that was the thrust of the question. Yes, it was about youth and value for youth. And one of the key things working with youth is building confidence. That has to be the foundation of how you get youth to progress and develop into leadership. And recreation facilities are essential for building youth confidence, and by engagement and just physical activity and teams and just recreation and play. And that goes alongside, you know, the value of a strong library, the value of a strong theater and art gallery, art programs. They also help to really boost the confidence and develop kind of the personalities of young people. So I'm not sure what else to say about the broader public with the new recreation facility. I love it. We need strong recreation facilities. That's obvious. You know, probably my priority would be to see a new library first, though, and to see a new art gallery first. And maybe there's no reason they can't be integrated and look collectively as to how we can do something differently. And that would be a good example of it. Okay.
Thank you, Ken, for your answer. Another question that has come in through Facebook. The next question goes to Douglas. What would you like to do, or what would you like to see done with the big empty waterfront property?
Which one?
It doesn't specify. It just says big waterfront property. There's a big lot. I think they're talking about the one that's probably down past Berwick.
Okay. Well, we're looking at, the first thing you need to do is look at the highest and best use of a property. You just can't say, well, you have to do this, you have to do that, but you know, we need to look at our infrastructure that's available there currently. We need to look at, as what Ken was just saying, recreational opportunities have gone down a little downhill for the last few years. And I know everyone's been focused on the homelessness and the housing issues. And so, tongue in cheek, I'd hire a consultant to determine highest and best use. But we first have to look at what the zoning is for that property, and then look at what the available uses are. If that wasn't what we wanted, you could do a public engagement, public consultation to find out what the people would like to do with that area, then change the zoning, and well, probably the OCP first, then the zoning, and then develop what was needed. But you have to first know what you're lacking in the community so you can develop what you need.
Okay, thank you, Douglas. The next question goes to Keely. Keely, what does a youth-friendly city look like to you?
What a great question. And it is time for us to be building legacy for the next generations of Campbell River. Within that, we have to be able to provide proper facilities as well as programming for our youth. What would it look like? Courtney has a great example using the Link Youth Center. We need the opportunity to have additions to support the youth, teenagers, and younger versions into our community, integrated with our current city facilities. Right now, there are very little opportunities within our facilities for our youth. How are we going to tackle that? We have the opportunity coming in the future to look at Strathcona Gardens. While it's not a city facility, it is here in Campbell River. It is one of the largest recreational facilities that could house additional space, creating a youth center. At this time, there are plans on the board to recreate a new facility for Strathcona Gardens. Are we ready for that? Are we going to be able, as the majority of user groups and the majority of the seats at the Strathcona Regional District, to be able to make that happen? It is a prime opportunity to build legacy for tomorrow and for today's youth in Campbell River.
Thank you, Keely. The next question is for Devin. Devin, what community amenity do you think we need to create in Campbell River that currently doesn't exist? Devin?
A community amenity. I'm not really sure, to be totally honest. My mind probably goes towards developing more park space and trails. I'm always a big proponent of more trails, especially relatively dry, protected trails for senior citizens and people who have mobility issues. So I'm always happy to vote for and work towards building new trails, and sports facilities and things like that. Big fan of the pump track and the skate park and whatnot. So going forward, I would always be for spaces like that in the community. So more usable green space, and things along those lines. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Devin. The next question is actually, where did it go? This question is a yes or no for all of you. Do any of you support the drag strip that was proposed at the airport? Show of hands of who supports the drag strip proposition. Douglas, Sean. So we have 2 in favor and 6 against. All right, thank you so much. The next question goes to Stephen. Stephen, did you want to take another question?
I might come up with much of an answer. Did you hear me? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
So the question is, what are your thoughts on how will we replace and maintain the aging infrastructure of the city without raising taxes?
I don't think you can. No, I'll pass on that.
Okay, fair enough.
Thanks.
So West Road, over to you, same question. What are your thoughts on how to replace and maintain the aging infrastructure without raising taxes?
Good question, more difficult answer. I'm not sure, I actually agree with Stephen, I'm not sure that it is possible. But I think we have to get creative in finding ways to increase the tax base. It goes back again to trying to enhance, but encourage businesses to relocate or to open up in Campbell River. There are business incubators. There are lots of things going on to try to stimulate growth. And if we can do that, that will increase the tax base and take it off of us as individuals. That's pretty much the only way I can think of right now. But I am open to learn. I love to learn. I love to read. I love to be influenced by smarter minds than myself, and then collectively take all of those ideas and see if, as a group, we can come up with the best solution.
All right. Wes, thank you very much. The next question goes to Laurel. Laurel, the question that's come in from Facebook is, Actually, it's a question for any of you. But Laurel, you can take first stab at it. Do you have any plans to accommodate the aging population? The seniors in our community, a lot of them are lower income, accommodations, bed in long-term care, etc. That's the question. How would you accommodate the growing seniors population?
Oh, like literally accommodate them, like you said, in terms of bed, or just make space for them in the community in general? Because I would give two different answers in terms of, again, relating back to my knowledge and my experience and my education comes from leisure. And so helping to create spaces in which seniors, anyone, people of all ages and all abilities to be able to recreate and socially connect with other people in a healthy way, to encourage healthier lifestyles and to encourage people to get to know one another. Their volunteering is a tremendous opportunity for seniors to connect with the community, and I think that they are a very valuable asset. And a lot of the retirees who are moving to Campbell River really invest in our arts and culture, in our recreation, in our social service agencies through volunteerism. So I think that helping to continue to support those sectors that really serve those populations are a great way to encourage. People are moving here anyway, so I think making more places and spaces that are conducive, again, to healthy and active lifestyles are a way to make sure that everybody who's living here has a way to contribute and a way to connect with other residents in the community and intergenerationally as well.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is specifically for Mr. Sean Smythe. Sean spoke of assisting small businesses. Specifically, how would he do that?
Yeah, great question. I've talked to numerous small business owners in town, and they all seem to have some sort of fight about how they fight with the city. I've talked about streamlining the permit process and having more of an open City Hall and working with City Hall better. There's numerous small businesses that I know of that have tried to move. They've tried to evolve their businesses, especially during COVID times, and they've had nothing but battles with City Hall. They have to put up a huge amount of money up front before they actually develop their business, like the greenways and landscaping. To put up $30,000 to the city just in a bank account while you build your business, that's a huge amount of money for a small business to put forward. I know another business that had to build a hangar and they had to put $50,000 up to the city just to hold an account to hold. So there's numerous things I would do to try to make things be cheaper, try to make things run smoother for our small businesses. And during COVID times, I would come out with a template for our restaurants and service industries that they can move outside, they can move around and use more of their each individual business has to do that permitting on their own. They should have a standard template for all businesses within the community. So make things work better for them.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. Now, the next question will be a show of hands. Which candidates support the proposed dump expansion at the old pulp mill site? Does everybody know what the question is referring to? Okay, so which of you support the expansion? A show of hands for yay. None of you support the expansion. All right, so there's the answer to that question. No one supports the expansion to the pulp mill site. All right, thank you for that. Next question. How many of you have read the city's current strategic plan? Show of hands. All right. And who largely agrees with the plan? Show of hands. And who would like to see it? Okay, so 3, 4, okay. And who would like to see it amended? Show of hands of who would like to see it amended. All right. Thank you for that. And the next one is again, show of hands. Do you agree or disagree that we are that Campbell River is becoming Qualicum Beach North? Agree or disagree? Show of hands if you agree with that statement. Okay. The follow-up question was, how can we learn from that town's experience with dealing with an influx of retirees escaping big cities? What mistakes can be avoided? Does anybody have anything they would like to offer for that? All right, go ahead, Mr. Blackburn. If you can unmute Ken. Okay, Ken.
I think the challenge that I would passionately avoid in Qualicum Beach is their design development. It has just fallen into kind of a template for how building design and their kind of downtown design has made everything absolutely have no character or individual characteristic. It becomes one kind of blended everywhere. It reminds me of the kinds of driving into every community in town that's lined with all the same fast food restaurants, and every place starts to look like every other place. And one of the things that I passionately love about Campbell River is that it's a little bit ersatz, in the sense it's a little bit all over the place. And if you let that get out of hand, it can become kind of a dog's breakfast. But if you talk with all of the stakeholders and come to some consensus as to letting individuality, kind of come to the forefront, then you start to get a community that has a great deal of character, because it represents diversity, it represents a lot of inclusion, and it's sending a signal that this is a place that thinks, and this is a place that talks about things. Qualicum Beach looks like a developer just went in and did it, and everybody sat back and let them do it. And as Sean was mentioning earlier, that's probably what you get with consultants as well. And I think that the more discussion that we have locally and get all the voices involved as to what character looks like, we can come up with an amazing place.
Go ahead, Douglas.
Thank you. I agree with Ken in some aspect of it. When Parksville and Qualicum was advertising themselves as the retirement community, they had a temporary economic boom when they developed all these box houses. They're all similar, consultant designed and mass production. But what they failed to recognize is that, first, retired people don't spend a lot of money. So as an economic boom after the houses were built was non-existent. The second thing is, healthy communities are communities that have balance between seniors, working class people, and the youth. And with that, you need the recreational facilities to facilitate everything. As I learned in my career, it's fine to build roads and sewer plants and water plants, but you also have to develop your soft assets. Your soft assets are the people. And without a balance of ages in the community, you don't have a good diversity, and it gets stagnant when you has too many of one group of people. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Douglas. And Keely. The question, Keely, was how to avoid becoming like North Qualicum Beach, which, as Ken referred to it, was a strip.
Well, their downtown is definitely developed in a unique way. Qualicum actually is growing at a greater rate. Their development rate is at 2% versus Campbell River sits at 1%. So when you look at the expanded development happening in that area, you're seeing much more than what we would see here. So the control here is a little different when it comes to the application base and the style and the culture of how a community would be put together. You know, we're very lucky here in the fact that we do move a little slower. We know that our process at City Hall through the permitting is and has been complicated and lacking in expedition. There are new processes that are being implemented right now at City of Campbell River through the development application that will expedite. So when we start talking about the comparison of development or the comparison of retirees, community to community, it's a little different. Retirees offer something that is very unique, and it's referred to as human capital. You know, they become enmassed in the community. They take ownership. That's not saying that families don't or that a younger generation doesn't. It just means that they absolutely amass into the community. And with that, we receive volunteer power. We have a ton of need in this community for directors and board members of all our nonprofits and other organizations. Unique opportunity to look at what seniors can offer.
All right. Thanks so much, Kaylee. Devin?
Just to touch on something that Doug mentioned, I do agree that when you do have an overwhelmingly senior population or an influx of them, the building of houses and communities is a temporary boom, and on a fixed income, retirees typically don't bring a saturation of wealth afterwards because they're on a fixed income and can't indulge the same way that young growing families typically can. So they also do tend to bring a higher usage of community assets like healthcare. So I would recommend that if we are going to approach a subject like an overabundance of retirees over other demographics, that we would want to focus on making sure that our healthcare system is up to the task by making sure and even incentivizing, if necessary, the development and training of more nurses and more staff capable of taking care of those so that we don't find ourselves shorthanded in the time of need, such as right now when our elderly are at risk of things like COVID and whatnot, and we only have a fixed amount of staff in our healthcare facilities. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Devin. Stephen, did you want to tackle this question or?
Because my geography is a little bit rough when it comes to Parksville and Qualicum. I normally just go down there to the beach, and I love the beach area. It's got great parking. But as for the town, I don't remember anything. It's like you drive in, you drive out. There's nowhere to, there's no incentive to even stop. I don't even think there's a McDonald's there, to tell the truth, and I like a cup of coffee now and again. But Campbell River's got character. I love it here. You drive down, you've got the marinas, you can walk along the seafront. I love the way that they're developing the footpath from Willow Point. I'm not too sure about the roundabout. I come from a country of roundabouts, and I don't think Canada's quite ready for them. And the location of the roundabout here, I think that's a waste of infrastructure money, and I would have saved the money there. And along with the toilet as well, that $200 toilet is a joke. It's situated right in the middle of the footpath between the library and the tourist centre. I went there yesterday to use it, and it was locked. So I don't know what that's about, and I don't believe there's even a wash basin inside. And I guess that's consultants for you. Plus the white elephant of the cruise ship, I believe that was consultants as well, wasting infrastructure money. Did I answer the question? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, no, that was good.
Yeah, no, I love Campbell River. I think we're doing a pretty good job here. And I think we've got some great candidates, and I'm not even too sure if I'm going to vote for myself now, to tell the truth. This is a big experience for me, and I really look forward to going to council meetings and maybe put my name down for the next election, and you'll all have to suffer again. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. So, Wes, the last one to answer this, and then we move into the closing statements. Wes, go ahead. Your thoughts on us becoming Qualicum Beach North.
Thank you. I'm not sure that we're on the same path to become a Qualicum Beach, but in terms of seniors, it reminds me of a story of a man that went to Vienna to visit his father, and he noticed a senior citizen, a quite advanced elderly person, on the street sweeping, and he was horrified. But his father explained, no, she feels useful. She's part of this community. And we often talk about our youth being the future. Our elderly, our senior citizens, our parents, our grandparents are the ones that pave the way. They are a part of this community. They have more experience and knowledge collectively than we can ever hope to amass. And we need to not coddle them, not accommodate them. We need to include them and make them feel a useful part of this great place that we call home. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. And now, starting with the closing statements, Sean Smythe, you are up first.
Thank you very much. Been a great evening, everyone. I've been enjoying this. I didn't get to answer the last question, but that's all right.
Oh, didn't you? Oh, sorry.
No, but that's we can round it up later afterwards, maybe.
Okay.
We've come to a very critical time in our community. You know, we've all been talking about what happened with the agriculture industry. And last night at the council meeting, Councillor Dahl brought up that there's regulations coming down to our forestry industry too. That's going to have a negative impact on our community. Our tourism industry, that we're looking like we're going to have a similar season to 2020 for tourism. And one thing I can guarantee everybody here, doesn't matter who you vote for, but we're about 3 years away, maybe 2, of cuts on the federal, provincial level. So this is going to be a time, plus we're redoing our OCP right now, very important to be looking forward in the future and seeing what we are economically. The people of Campbell River really need to think about in this election, we need a strong council. We need a council that's going to be united. We need a council that's going to be nimble, can change, and can be forward thinking. Get in front of problems instead of just doing crisis management. We can't afford to keep on doing things the same way we've been doing them. We got housing problems, we got ever increasing taxes, and we got the industries that hold our community up and pay for everybody are all struggling right now. We got to start looking at other levels of government there's going to be all sorts of funding coming down from other levels of government. We need to line up and get every single dollar we can right now and be looking forward. And like I said before, it's been a great night. I've been enjoying this, everybody. Maybe I'll answer that question at the very end.
Thanks so much, Sean. Ken Blackburn, your closing statement, please.
Thanks, Mary Ruth, and thanks everybody. Well, it was truly enlightening to listen to the diversity, and I think it's really healthy for Campbell River to have 8 candidates come forward for a seat. I think that really bodes well, and I'm sure none of you are going away. Whoever of us moves into the seat, we all will. But as I said at the beginning, I think this conversation is just a start, and we need to really build on our strengths. We have an awful lot going for us here in Campbell River, and I think our greatest strength is the people that actually live and work here. I have had the opportunity to work across all sectors of this community, and I've come to really understand complexity. I'm not going to list over 700 different programs that I have created and managed in town, but I have worked with local businesses. I've worked with family services, health organizations, environmental groups, First Nations artists and First Nations bands, tourism, economic development. I've sat on the community planning committee. I have been on the facade improvement committee. I chaired the public art committee. I have been engaged for many years here. I really feel that my career, I've come to understand leadership. And I think that we really need creative leadership right now. So I'm bringing those skills to city governments, and I hope governance, and I hope for your vote on February 27th. Please join me to build an innovative, inclusive, compassionate, and forward-thinking Campbell River. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you, Ken. Douglas?
Thank you, Mary Ruth. Leadership is the main question. And leadership also is meant to inspire. It's also visioning. What will Campbell River look like 30 years from now? That's the question every member of council should be considering. This is a broad question that's not easily answered. The question should be addressed in our official community plan and then implemented through the zoning and other bylaws that are complementary to it. Will there be 2 commercial cores, or 3, or just 1? As the community grows, we'll have to address that question. Look at Nanaimo. I was there before Woodgrove Mall was built, and now look at what has happened there. We need to be considering what our future plans are and when, as to how we're going to handle this kind of growth. Change we'll need to make in the future plans when we consider rising ocean levels. Where would you prefer to live? Where do you want people to live, rather, sorry? Our economy, do we shift away from being so dependent on natural resources where the rug can be pulled out from under our feet? Or do we try to diversify by bringing in service industries like high tech? If we do diversity and bring in technology companies, then the airport will become and play an important role in our economy. Be sure to vote, and good night.
Thank you so much, Douglas. Keely?
Thank you. As we recover together as a community from the impacts of COVID-19, unity and strength are needed to move forward. We must project and progress to our desired outlooks and for the next generations here in Campbell River. The time is now to build the best future the citizens and this city can have. We're at a critical point in the planning of this community. Campbell River has large capital projects that need your collaboration and consultation. As a community, we need to face important decisions together, such as our housing crisis, a new landfill facility, transportation corridors, emergency services, and recreational upgrades. It's time to focus on a long-range 20-year vision through comprehensive urban planning. It's time to create legacy for our children, our grandchildren, and generations to come, for all citizens of Campbell River. I'm asking for your support and your vote in this by-election. I'm asking to be standing at City Council table and at City Hall to be your voice. With your direct support, we can accomplish a better tomorrow for Campbell River. Vote Keely Donaldson for council in this by-election. Gela Kesla, Imo, Marcy. Thank you.
Thank you, Keely. Devin?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to everybody tonight, and I also appreciate being up on the screen and sharing all this time with everybody else here. It seems like everybody at the very least had housing top of mind, and we agreed kind of with everything else as well. Campbell River needs a comprehensive yet sensitive hand when it comes to planning going forward. We need to be mindful of all the changes coming in our economy, our housing, our demographics, and we need somebody or some people who are going to be on the board for or on the council for a long time coming, who weren't just a part of implementing those plans making the plans, but implementing them going forward. And I would very much like to be a part of that going forward. I'm a young professional, and I intend to stay in Campbell River and continue to try and make it a better place, whether I'm on the council or not. But I would very much appreciate
We seem to have a frozen screen.
It can be. Nope. Am I back?
There you
Is it
go.
me that
You're
froze?
back. No, go ahead. Finish.
Okay. I'm Devin Garrett. I've been here for 4 generations, and there will probably be a few more. So please vote for me or for any of these other fine people that spoke tonight, trying to make Campbell River a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin. Stephen Jewell, final statement.
It's great to be here tonight. I really want to tell you how I miss the compost place at the end of Willis Road, and I hope we can bring one of those back. It's a pain driving up to the city dump to get rid of your yard waste. Youth engagement. I've been a volunteer almost since I arrived in Campbell River for the Sea Cadets. I've been a director for the Navy League at the Cadet Hall, and now I'm the president for the last 2 years of the Sea Cadet Society. I think it's great if we can engage more youth and get them off the streets, the Sea Cadets, the Army Cadets, the Air Cadets. I love the Strathcona Gardens. I would like to see more facilities built around maybe Nuns Park. The Sportsplex has a nice BMX track. Maybe we could bring that closer to town, bring the kids in. I love Campbell River. I'm not too sure if I'm going to get any more than one vote tonight on an election night, but I've really enjoyed it, and you're going to see a lot more of me. I'm not going away, unfortunately. And thank you for your time, and good luck to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
That's it. Yeah.
And final comments from West Road.
Thank you, Mary Ruth. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce and the Tidemark for hosting this event. As well, thank you to all of those of you who tuned in to watch and to, more importantly, listen and on some occasions ask questions. Tonight's giving you, the voter, a very brief insight and views on our opinions. And naturally, there's a lot more to us, and there's a lot more to Campbell River that can be contained in just 2 hours. But it's your opinions, and it's your views and your voice that was a catalyst that got me to enter this election in the first place. And by putting your faith and your confidence in me, I'm going to hold those opinions, those views in trust and represent you faithfully, honestly, and openly. I realize it's only 18 to 22 months before we do this again. Most of that will be held in a very steep learning curve, but I hope to implement what I learned quickly. I'm always a glass half full kind of guy, so I see a bright future for Campbell River. I understand most of the questions are centered around concerns, but there's the flip side. This is a great place to call home. And so I thank you to everyone who has encouraged me, continues to encourage me. Your support means so much, but I cannot stress enough. Unless you come out and vote, your voice is a nice warm sound in my ear. For all of us, please come out, exercise your right. Your voice matters, both on election day and the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. And the final closing statement from Laurel.
Final closing statement. Yes. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and thank you for sharing your opinions and your viewpoints. All of the other candidates, it's really fascinating. And before we got on this call, we were discussing how interesting it is to hear from the public on so many issues and concerns in our community. And thank you. And please keep that coming. As Wes mentioned, it'll be a very steep learning curve to participate in City Council with a team of people who have already been working together. And it's such an opportunity for one of us with a bit of a different voice and a different perspective to bring that experience into City Council. And I believe that my diversity of a voice is complementary to what's already happening in council, and also diverse in that we'll have different conversations. And my background and education in developing sustainable recreation and leisure opportunities for residents that live here and for visitors who come here, I think will be a great addition to the team that exists already and supporting the staff that is doing phenomenal work and helping the strategic goals of City Council be realized. So I'm just really excited at the opportunity to be part of this amazing team and greater leadership in this community that I love to call home. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Laurel. I would like to thank all 8 candidates for joining us this evening, and I would like to say that a recording of tonight will be available airing on Shaw TV Channel 4, Shaw Spotlight Channel 4, beginning Thursday night at 5 p.m. for those people who do not have internet and Facebook. It will also be available on the Campbell River Mirror website by Thursday, as well as our own Campbell River and District Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel. And they will remain there up until the election day. Early voting starts on the 17th. Please double check at the City of Campbell River website for all of the early voting days, and then the official voting, or not the early days, but the actual final election day is on February 27th. And as some of the candidates have said, please vote. It is your voice. These are your people that are going to be working on your behalf. Choose wisely. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us this evening, and thank you again to the 8 candidates for the courage and bravery you are showing in putting your names forward. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.